Welcome everyone to the People of Purpose and Profits Business Coaching Podcast. I'm Brian and my wonderful co-host is...
And I'm Kat.
And this is the last week before 2021, and we're coming to you with a very quick episode because we want to model something we hope you are doing. Kat, you want to tell them what that is?
Absolutely. And that is rest. I find that is so important. And especially as an entrepreneur, we tend to be on the go, go, go all the time. And we forget one of the most important things, which is rest. And I find that our productivity, our focus, and all of the things that we really want to succeed and we need to succeed really get diminished when we don't get enough rest and when we don't even plan for it. Brian, what is your take on that?
The same thing. Because, well, I mean, there have been psychological studies that have shown when you take 0 breaks, you are less productive. And that's some of the things, especially working in healthcare for a dozen years. One of my first assessment questions is, do you take your break every day? Both of them. And the answer is no. Do you eat at your desk and work? And the answer is usually yes. When we have said not taking your break is a problem, because a lot of people will say, well, they should. It's actually in the state of Washington, a legal requirement, but it's something that no one ever enforces. But once you begin to enforce it as a leader, to be able to say it's unacceptable to not take a break, your productivity goes up. Because when you have that rest, it allows your brain to have more flexibility, more creativity. You can solve problems faster. When you're exhausted, how well are you able to handle complex problems?
Right. Not
So,
really.
yeah. And then as the leader, if you don't take the breaks, that's going to absolutely show up in your ability to lead. You might be able to manage where you're at and probably do pretty well, maybe get 5% growth, but you're never going to grow your business or your team unless you've had time to rest, time to refuel, to refresh. And so that productivity goes all around. And then how well are we, how engaging are we when we're tired and exhausted?
Right.
So,
I can attest to that.
right. Yeah. There's sometimes we don't do episodes because of your mood. No, I'm just kidding. I couldn't imagine you in a bad, grumpy mood. But if you think about as leaders and teams, when we don't get the rest we need, we often don't treat each other well, which is another ding to productivity, to be
Right.
able to get things done and to serve customers. So get your dang rest, people.
Right. And it does carry into all areas of our lives because, ultimately, if you're not rested, then your work suffers. And then because you're not maybe doing that well in your work, then it creates negative feelings that carry into, maybe taking it out on a spouse or a friend or a child. And that literally everything is so connected. And if we understood that rest alone can have so many benefits. And one of the things that opened up my mind to how important this is when Ariana Huffington wrote in her book and was telling a story of how she used to work 18 hours days or 16-hour days until she found herself literally almost drowning in her own blood because out of exhaustion, she fell and she hit the corner of her desk with her face and broke her cheekbone. And ever since, she that she went to a lot of doctors trying to figure out what it was, and she thought she had some kind of a medical condition. And when they told her, well, it's just exhaustion. And what she did, she turned it around and she created even nap pods
Mm,
at the Huffington Post.
mm,
And she said ever since then, people are not, they created rules that they're not allowed to work after work or
mhm.
come in or do things unless it's like an extreme emergency, which rarely ever happens because they're all well rested. The productivity increased by, I don't know, like tens of, I don't know, like 30% or something like that. And she says she has a family life, and it is so important to the quality of life. And I think if we rest, one of the best thing that comes out of that is a fulfilling life,
Yeah,
which we all really do neglect when we're in the go mode all the time and we miss out on what life is about, experiences.
right. Well, we work with leaders, whether or not they have titles of leaders or not, they are still leaders. So even if you think that rest is for someone else, think about how you can be a model of what resting means. Because oftentimes a leader can say, I want everyone to take their breaks and lunches, but then you keep hustling through. People pick up on those cues. So you've got to go first as a leader. Take your break first. Don't be the one that sends the emails at 7 p.m. when you say work-life balance. We don't work after 5.
Right.
So yeah, any just really quick advice on how to help people who don't feel comfortable resting yet?
Well, I think that in it alone is a very telling sign that you really, really need it,
Yeah.
because you are in a sense addicted to that feeling of always being burnt out. And I know what dramatic changes can happen in your life once you decide. But I one of the things that I tell people, and I noticed that I used to do too, is in the morning, do not wake up straight with your phone in your hand, because that can cause you to backslide into constantly being supposedly producing something, but what it does, it just creates a lot of distraction. So if you have the tendency to have your phone by you, purchase an alarm clock, have it by your bed, and put your phone in a different room.
Mm.
If you really need to have people be able to reach you in case of emergency, get a landline. But do not have your phone near you for several reasons. And I'll tell you, even from a scientific standpoint, if you have your phone by your bed, your brain is not able to recover as good and as quickly as it normally does without the interference of EMF. So
Mm,
that would be a really, really good tip for people.
good. One of the things I like to do is sometimes I ask ridiculous questions to help people have insight. So when you're like, I can't take a break because I have to do this, when you do that, I want you to write down, if I didn't do this, how quickly will I die? And most people would say, well, I'm not going to die. Okay. How quickly will you receive bodily harm? Oh, I'm not going to receive bodily harm. How much money are you going to lose in the next 15 minutes if you weren't doing it? Put an actual dollar sign. Sometimes in coaching, people will come up with something and I'd say, how do you know? And then they go, well, I really don't know. So once again, you got to go back to the data. Like, are you really going to lose $200 because you didn't spend the next 15 minutes doing this? And then what's the worst that can happen? Have people write that down. And then I say, how likely is that worst thing to happen? So they might be like, well, I'm just going to be 6 months behind. I'll never be able to get caught up. How likely is it that you're never going to be able to get caught up?
Right.
Well, 25%. So I think maybe going through that, it helps you remove the fears, or at least address the fears of why you believe you can't take that time. And then you'll start to see, once you get in the practice of it, then you'll start to see that productivity increases. I think about that Huffington thing, the whole Parkinson's law. Everything takes as long as the time assigned to it. So if you say you got 2 months to do this project, it's going to take you 2 months. But if you say I'm going on vacation next week, you've got 2 days to do it, you often find ways to get it done in 2 days. So artificially giving yourself a quicker time helps you be more productive because you meet it. So your day will adjust to what you say it's going to be. So that's the best advice I think I can help people to rest is claim your day and work around what you want it to be.
And that's such great advice. So thank you, Ryan.
Sure. And we hope everyone has a great 2021. If you're listening to this after 2021, hope it started out well. But join our Facebook group, interact with Kat and I. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and listen to our podcatcher of choice for our audio listeners. So thank you, everyone. Have a great New Year's.
Happy New Year's.
Yeah, bye.